Welcome to the DC Stewart Show podcast. This is your host, Derek Stewart, and I'm here with you today on a Monday, October 21st, about 2 weeks away from Halloween. Halloween, as we all know, is a special event. A lot of people get a chance to put on costumes and be something that they're really not, but they want to go out and have a good time. I've done it in the past. So, with all of that said, welcome to the show once again. If you like what I'm doing, hit that like button and subscribe, because like I say, we're just getting going, getting out of the blocks off the ground, me and Isaiah. So I just wanted to share with you some sports from the weekend, mainly from yesterday, because as you can see, I got my Dodgers gear on right now. Really proud of that organization, really proud of that team. The Dodgers is something special. I started watching baseball probably about like 8 years ago. Got invited to a game by a business associate, and it just was, such a really, really wonderful experience that I had at the stadium when I went to Dodger Stadium to watch the team. I never imagined in my lifetime that I would actually be following baseball because, I grew up playing football. Football has always been my lifelong passion, whether it was high school football, whether it was college football, whether it was professional football. And, the biggest thing is if you pick a sport and you like a sport, it doesn't hurt to try another sport too, if you decide you want to do that, because at the end of the day, sports is pretty much a very, very bonding type of activity in this country, in the United States of America. And this country is special in the sense that we have sports and we have seasons that we keep sports going 365 days a year, and they do nothing but repeat. And it's really, really unique in the sense that you can root for a team or you can root for an individual, whether they're team sports, whether they're individual sports. And when a team like the Dodgers or the Yankees or any team from any organization tend to win, it brings a monotony and a continuity within the city itself. And that's really, really kind of really, really good in a way, because, people go about their everyday lives and they have things in their life and they don't have time to, think about many things. But when you think about sports and you can root for something, it gives you a different outlook and a different outcome on how you look at things in your life. So getting back to the Dodgers, I watched the game in the sixth inning. I think I got back home around the sixth inning yesterday, and I was just excited to watch the Dodgers really kind of finish this thing off at home, because the Dodgers they have a really good team because they signed Shohei Ohtani and they signed um, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, which these are two Japanese players. They come from the Japan League, and Ohtani is the more famous of the two, of course. But Yamamoto is really, really talented because he played in the Japan League and he played in a championship game for the Oryx, Osaka Buffaloes. And that team is really popular in southern Japan, in the Osaka and the Kobe area. A lot of those teams in Japan, they're spread around kind of like in the United States, small market teams, big market teams. You got the Tokyo Giants in Tokyo. That's a large market team. You have the Osaka Buffaloes in Osaka. That's a large market team. And then you have Hiroshima. And Hiroshima's a small market team. And you look at Hanshin, which is a city outside of in the region of the Osaka area. That's a kind of a small market team. So you have all these teams that are integrated together and these talented players, because in Japan, they take baseball and soccer really serious, but definitely baseball. If you look at a Japanese baseball game, professional baseball game on TV, I don't see very much of a difference in how the fans root for their teams over there. And they are very passionate about their teams, just like we are here in the United States. And that's what makes it special to be able to get some of these players from that league to come to the United States and help add their talents to already talented rosters in Major League Baseball. So with all of that said, I'd have to say I'm proud of the Dodgers because of the 43 years it took since 1988 for them to win a National League pennant at home, to do it in front of the home crowd, to do it in front of your home base fans. That they really, really love the team and they love the organization and they love the players and they love just everything about a class act organization like the Dodgers, starting with the owner, starting with the front office, and just the whole outlook of the whole team. It just shows how hard they worked to put together a winning formula for an organization. And it wasn't easy. You heard the players interview last night when they were celebrating after they beat the New York Mets to move on to the World Series against the New York Yankees. It wasn't easy at all. I mean, you have to deal with all different types of things, from player injuries, bringing in the right players, being able to play the right players at the right time. So it's a very unique formula that you have to put together as a manager in baseball. Whether you at any level, you could be high school level, it could be college level, it could be professional level. The biggest thing is just getting that formula and putting that one formula together, because sometimes it takes years to do it. I mean, it took the Dodgers, I think the last 3 years, they didn't make it. I mean, the first year, if you look at it, the San Diego Padres took them out. And then you look at the second year, I believe the Arizona Diamondbacks actually, you know, eliminated the Dodgers, from a World Series contention. So, to see them do this last night, I don't really think the Yankees is going to be able to stop them, although two teams match up really well together. These are two legacy franchises from both large cities, with New York City being the largest East Coast city, with the Dodgers being one of the largest West Coast cities in Los Angeles. This is going to be a really, really good World Series. I'm glad it turned out like this. No slight on the New York Mets, no slight on the Cleveland Guardians, because those two teams played really hard. But just the victors came out a little bit on top in terms of, their preparation for the game and their talent levels, versus those other teams. So it really makes a difference. Shohei Ohtani, who's a star player, as I mentioned earlier, from Japan, he has 54 home runs. But on the flip side of that, Aaron Judge for the New York Yankees, who's a local boy from technically Bakersfield, Central California. I believe Judge played at Fresno State, and I'll validate that. But to see Aaron Judge hit 58 and to see Ohtani hit 54, boy, I can't wait to see the pitching to both of these players. And I'm not leaving out other players. You got Max Muncy for the Dodgers. You have Freddie Freeman for the Dodgers. Mookie Betts. Mookie's a stud. Will Smith. And I can go on and on with the players. Teoscar Hernandez. He's a super good player that they brought in to really help this team reach that next level for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And then on the flip side of that, you have the Yankees with Giancarlo Stanton, who's a slugger. And, you just have several other players on that Yankee squad that they match up really well against the Dodgers pitching rotation, and we'll see how that's going to turn out. The Dodgers have the home field advantage in this game. So the first two games are being played in Los Angeles, and then it'll be 3 games in New York, the Bronx. And then if the Dodgers actually pull off one game in New York, it'll bring it back here. And the Dodgers can celebrate, and they can celebrate that final celebration of winning the World Series. So I just wanted to bring that up, that, it's very rare that we get a matchup that we get in this game that's going to start on Friday. Oh man, it's just phenomenal to see these two teams play each other. During the regular season, the Dodgers beat the Yankees twice. So, it's going to be different now because you're talking about a whole brand new season when the playoffs come around. When it comes to that. So, go Dodgers. I got my hat, I got my shirt, and I got some different hats and different shirts for when the Dodgers win the World Series. Not going to I'm not going to make a bold prediction, but I do believe the Dodgers is going to edge them out with the pitching and with the hitting. And we'll see. And I'm confident that they can do that. So, with all of that said, we'll move on to the next thing, which was college football Saturday. Looks like UGA went in and they pretty much did a number on University of Texas. I mean, Texas was undefeated, pretty much at the top of their level when it came to playing, and the Georgia went in there and pretty much handled Texas pretty well. With all of that said, so Georgia actually moved back up the rankings into the top, actually the top two. And let me look here. I can tell you right now that the AP top 10 in college football, AP top 10 for college football is, of course, you got the University of Oregon as number one, and they deserve it. Oregon is 7-0, and then you have Georgia at 6-1, because Georgia went in and they lost against Alabama. And Alabama haven't really proven anything since they beat Georgia. And me and Isaiah had some heavy debate about that, on Alabama and Georgia when they played that game. And I kind of felt like Georgia was going to definitely be a contender no matter what in the SEC East. Georgia is going to rule because Georgia has that talent and Kirby Smart has that coaching skill set to be able to keep Georgia right up into the top 5 constantly, if not the top 2. So we'll see how that play out. Penn State is at 6-0 at 3. Ohio State is at 5-1. Only one game Ohio State lost was against Oregon. And then you have Texas at number 5, which they lost against Georgia this past weekend. And then you have Miami, Florida, which is my home team because I grew up in Miami. And, the Hurricanes, man, this is the year they're going to do it. I believe this is the year that Miami is going to get to that playoff series. And, Clemson better watch out because I do suspect Miami is going to have to play Clemson for the ACC championship. And Clemson, we owe Clemson quite a few years of the spankings that they put on the Hurricanes over those years. So I'm looking forward to it. And for Miami to be able to get into that top, echelon of college programs again. Shouts out to Mario Cristobal. I mean, Mario Cristobal is a hell of a coach. A lot of people gave up on Mario Cristobal. I didn't. I didn't give up on him. He comes from a championship pedigree. Mario Cristobal went to Christopher Columbus High School in Miami. And from that point on, when he started playing football, football was in his bloodline. And either you have it or you don't. And Mario Cristobal has it. I mean, I'm just convinced that he has brought Miami back to the level of respectability at the national level to be able to play for championships every year. And that's going to happen. If not this year, definitely in the coming years. But I got a feeling that this year is the year. Because they got some really, really good talent on that team. Starting with the quarterback Cam Ward, it took Miami forever to get a good quarterback. A quarterback that could really, really step up to the plate when certain elements of the team is not playing in other areas. Ward is able to make a difference in that area, and that's really special. And Xavier Restrepo, I'm gonna bring his name up. Sure shot first rounder, in my opinion. Wide receiver from Miami. Restrepo catch everything. You throw it his way, he's going to catch it. Whether he's lying on his back, which he caught a pass lying down on his back in a game to help keep a drive alive for Miami to be able to move down the field and be able to score on it on an opponent. Restrepo is special, just as Cam Ward and all of the other Miami players that I did not mention on offense and defense. Go Miami Hurricanes. This is the U, baby. This is the U. This is the year for the U. So I'll move on. Tennessee is number 7. They got a really good squad. Tennessee is coming out of the SEC East, and LSU is number 8, which they're out of the SEC West. And Clemson is number 9 at 6-1 out of the ACC Coastal Division. Actually, I believe Clemson is from the Atlantic Division. I'll take that back. And Miami's in the Coastal Division. So those two teams are going to match up really well against each other when they do come to play each other. You have Iowa State to round it out at number 10. Man, we got some good football coming up in the coming weeks. You only have 12 teams that's going to make the playoff, college football playoff series. I think it's long overdue that they added more teams than just 4 teams, because that just wasn't fair altogether. So when they get these 12 teams into that rotation, and right now it looks like Notre Dame is number 12 and BYU is number 11. If they were to do it today, the top 12 teams will actually start to play each other in a tournament kind of arrangement where they meet in the national championship game sometimes in late January or either early February. It varies each year with college football. And, I'm excited about the opportunities that college football has to offer. College football is constantly evolving in a lot of areas when it comes to players being able to earn now with NIL. NIL means name, image, and likeness. So what the arrangement is for NIL, and that just doesn't apply to football. It applies to pretty much every particular sport at a school where the athlete's name, image, and likeness, they can negotiate with outside advertisers or outside corporations to promote their products and to use their talent levels where they're playing, of course, in college. And this is a good thing, and it's going to only evolve even better because the schools don't pay these athletes. The school gives the athlete pretty much a 4-year scholarship to be able to attend the school. As most people know, college is very expensive to to attend a lot of schools, and these athletes have that opportunity to be able to get an education on top of being able to earn money while they're getting their education. It's definitely long overdue. If you think about 30 years ago, where an athlete didn't earn anything, they were barely making it. They had to borrow money from friends and family to be able to survive at a school, even though they were at the school and getting support mechanisms from the school, such as food and housing and things of that nature. That doesn't necessarily mean that you can survive on just that alone. So I'm looking forward to some more college coming up. The USC Trojans is here locally in Los Angeles, and they're gonna probably try to turn their season around against Rutgers this Friday. They've been kind of on several games where they've lost, and they're gonna have to really step it up to get back into this thing. I don't know what their chances are, because looking at the top 20 right now, the top 25 teams, we're talking about. Let's see here. Southern Cal is not even in the top 25 right now. So they've completely fell out of the top 25 for the Trojans. They're going to have to claw their way back in if they can do it. But worst case scenario, they may get an opportunity to go to a really decent bowl this year, and we'll see how that plays out. As far as, I would say, the top 25, shaping up by the end of the season is really kind of hard to predict, because you have so many teams with one loss. And a lot of these teams are going to have to play each other, of course. So that'll kind of narrow down the consensus as to which teams are going to be, qualifying for playoffs and college bowls, because it's not just the playoffs itself. That's for the national championship. You're looking at the bowls too. I mean, because these schools, they want to reach decent bowls. They have so many bowls now, it's kind of hard to keep up with. I mean, the name of some of the bowls is just, it's hilarious, to say that a lot of these companies they corporately sponsor these bowls, so we'll see how that play out. I would just think that right now I'm gonna look at the top. I'm gonna make a bold prediction, and I might adjust that by the end of the college season. But right now, I'm looking at Georgia, Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State, Texas, Miami, Florida, um, maybe even LSU and Clemson to be right there in the thick of things, and Notre Dame and BYU. And I won't leave BYU out because BYU has been a really, really good program even since the 80s. I mean, they had Lavelle Edwards there, which was the coach in the 80s. And this is a tiny little school in Provo, Utah. And these guys at BYU, they ball it out, man. They balling big time in BYU territory. So BYU has an opportunity because they're 7-0. You know, they're not in a big, I would say, conference, but you got to give them credit when credit's due, and that goes for Iowa State as well. That when these teams are undefeated, it doesn't, to me, it doesn't matter which conference you in. It shouldn't, at least. A lot of experts say it does matter, but I would think that if you're 7-0 or you're at the end of the year undefeated, it's just hard to kind of leave you out, I would think, because they look at strength of schedule and they look at a whole bunch of other variables, how well you win your games in terms of point spreads and stuff like that. So that college football thing it's got a lot of work to do in terms of how they're going to shape up, really kind of polishing it to the point where it's not very many, questions when it comes to which teams should be in it and which teams shouldn't, because for 30 years, that's kind of what happened. You had undefeated teams left out, like Florida State last year, because their quarterback was injured. Then you had Alabama was actually inserted into the CFP playoff, on the college football playoff, and a lot of people thought that was unfair for Florida State. But they did have rules in that particular conference, the ACC conference, which kind of, said that if one of your principal players, if they were hurt, you had to, they took that into consideration. So, moving on to pro, yesterday, we had the LA Raiders, or the Las Vegas Raiders. Let me correct that. Las Vegas Raiders. I said LA Raiders because they played in Los Angeles back in the 90s. The biggest thing about the Raiders is they haven't really been the same technically since they left initially Oakland to Los Angeles, and then they left Los Angeles, went back to Oakland, and then the original owner, who, Al Davis, who was a legend in himself, he passed away and his son inherited the team, Mark Davis. And I guess lucrative wise, I mean, Mark decided to move the team from Oakland because the city of Oakland wasn't kind of, working with Mark Davis to try to build a better stadium for him in Oakland, since the Oakland Coliseum was kind of outdated in a lot of areas. So Mark moved the team to Las Vegas, and now you have a lot of pundits are saying Las Vegas is not really a home field advantage for the Raiders. And that could be either way. I mean, I would say that could be true. I mean, because Las Vegas is a tourist destination for people around the world. So you think about that, it's just really, really important that if you play in a stadium and you've played in a stadium so long, you want to try to keep that edge and not have the opposing team be able to come to town. And for example, when an opposing team comes to town, like the Pittsburgh Steelers, for example, Pittsburgh Steelers bring a traveling crowd that is just amazing how these people travel to different cities from the city of Pittsburgh and from the Western Pennsylvania area, not just Pittsburgh, but they have fan bases already located in a lot of these cities, along with the San Francisco 49ers, along with the Green Bay Packers, even my Miami Dolphins. When I went to see the Dolphins a couple of years ago against the Chargers over at SoFi Stadium here in Los Angeles, man, I saw just as many Dolphins fans as I saw Chargers fans. So with the Raiders being here yesterday, boy, that black they dress in black and silver. That silver and black is just amazing. How many fans I saw headed toward that stadium yesterday. And then I went over to the tailgating area yesterday, and I saw all different types of fans. It was LA Rams fans there too, because that's who the Raiders were playing. But those fans from the Raiders, man, they're deep. They go deep. So that game turned out to be all right. Aiden McConnell, who's a quarterback for the Raiders, he ended up getting injured yesterday. I think he broke his thumb, if I'm not 100% mistaken. And let's do Aiden McConnell. He ended up breaking his finger yesterday, and he will be out probably 4 to 6 weeks because of his injury. And that's going to be a big loss for the Raiders because, if you look at the bigger picture, the Raiders were having trouble trying to find a continuity with a quarterback anyway. And Aiden McConnell has been there several years. And, if you think about it, it's going to be really, really interesting to see how the Raiders can rebound from this, because they didn't lose by a lot yesterday because the Rams had a lot of injuries as well. So anyway, I just wanted to wrap up a short version of this podcast today. I'm going to be coming back later in a couple of hours. I'm going to do another podcast to cover some other areas of sports from this weekend. And I wanted to go over just a few things with you to start this morning with. Although it's afternoon in Los Angeles right now, got kind of a late start today. Had a lot of stuff going on this morning on top of what I'm doing now. So hit that like button, and subscribe to my page, because, with your support, I'll be able to bring more of my, I would say, insight to how I look at things and how basically you look at things versus how I look at things. So if you get an opportunity, hit that like button and subscribe, and we'll be talking with you again soon. And thank you for joining the DC Stewart Show today.
You've reached the end of another episode of the DC Stewart Sports Talk podcast. Be sure to connect with us at Facebook and Twitter.com. Your voice is important, so head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. Catch our next episode.